Okay, next question here is we currently do quarterly releases. How do I shift my organization to smaller and more frequent releases? Okay, so great question. A lot of CTOs who inherit teams and organizations have to deal with this issue. And I look at three dimensions of this. The first is the customer side. So, can the customers actually handle more frequent releases? Are you in an industry where the customers are used to yearly releases or quarterly releases? And if your company has been releasing software to your customers in that sort of slower cadence for many, many years and maybe even decades, then it becomes quite difficult to actually change the whole cadence. And you really have to essentially negotiate with your entire customer base to make it happen. Now, there's strategies for that, and we'll talk about that in another video. But focusing first and foremost on whether the customer base is going to be able to handle more frequent releases is really important. And I'm saying that even factoring in things like Launch Darkly and feature flagging and all of that, because even with that, if you're trying to do more frequent releases, you're doing it for the purpose of getting in the hands of the customer. So, it still stands that you need to understand what the customer's kind of used to and what their needs are, and if you can change the customer base's like behavior, then okay, great. But that's its own set of challenges. The second thing is that the business itself that you're in may not be used to frequent releases. And a perfect example of that is like the support team. So if for the last 5 years, the support team is used to the big product releases going out quarterly, then they've organized their whole department possibly around that cadence, and you're getting them to move off of that. You really got to understand whether they actually even have the capacity to deal with that. It often requires more manpower to manage that kind of a frequent release cadence, and so you have to really forge a good relationship with the support team and really understand whether they're going to be able to handle it and build a plan for that too. So that's number two after customers is the business itself and whether it can change. And then to me, last comes like the dev and the product team and that whole organization. And what I found candidly is when I've had to do this is there's always a few voices that don't like the move to a smaller, more frequent release cadence. The most of the team is going to be fine with it, but there will be a handful of people, and so you have to either convince those people, or you have to get them off the bus. I'm sorry to say, but usually you got to basically put a new kind of process in place, and you got to explain to them why this new thing is going to be beneficial to the business, and you got to give them like the time to change their mindset. But then after some period of time, you got to kind of call it if they're not coming along and just make the decision to move forward without them in the new process, new model, hire folks that agree and accept and know the benefits of smaller and more frequent releases. Sometimes that's what it takes. So think about it in three dimensions: customers first, and whether the customer base can handle it, the business itself, specifically like the customer support team, and then the product and dev team is number three. So great question again, and thanks for submitting it. And if you want something answered, go ahead and submit it in the comments below. Thanks.